Welcome back. This is the twofer. Mm, twofer. Yeah, but this one's gonna be Ant-Man versus Adam, Marvel versus DC. For this one, I'm gonna go with Ant-Man. I don't know shit about both of them, but I feel like I'm more comfortable knowing more about Ant-Man than Adam. When it comes to Adam, I've seen him in the first Black Adam movie. I thought he had some type of cool power, like dark matter or some shit. But when I saw he just turned himself small and huge like Ant Man, I was like, oh, that sucks. But anyway, let's get into it.
Mighty might. Good things come in small packages. The bigger they are,
Hey, I ain't the only one but this. That shit.
the harder they fall. We're just trying to get these out of the way. He's Wiz and I'm Boomstick. And it's our job to analyze their weapons, armor, and skills to find out who would win
A death battle.
Did you know that ants can lift 50 times their own body weight? That'd be
I thought it was
like
100 times.
a car straight over your head. I did, thanks to my fun fact of the day calendar. Also, Hawaiian pizza was invented in Canada yesterday. Well, I bet your calendar didn't tell you that Dr. Henry Pym, aka Hank, was considered a genius at a very early age. By 3 years old, doctors declared that he was smarter than both his parents.
Why he blue?
He eventually majored in biochemistry and became one of the most successful scientists in his field. He had big ideas about shrinking the size of cargo to reduce shipping costs. Logistics. All of which made him a laughingstock in the scientific community and sparked a long-lasting insecurity and need to prove himself. But he did it! He developed a working serum! He went from laughingstock to Christmas stocking! The much better stuck, right behind Bean and Life. So, naturally, he tested the serum on himself, like any self-respecting scientist would, and shrank down to the size of an ant. And just when things started going south, a sweet little ant, let's call her Aunt Hathaway, swooped in and led Hank safely back to his lab where he could return to full size. Hank then harnessed the serum and became the superhero, Ant-Man. Along with his new identity came a fascination in entomology, which makes total sense. Ants are fascinating. Did you know that ants can talk to each other in a bunch of different ways? Through touch, sound, or even sharing information by barfing at each other. It's actually called trophallaxis, and they're not barfing per se. It's more like passing food mouth to mouth. Gross! Hank figured out how to communicate with his new pets, not by barfing, but by creating a cybernetic helmet that mirrors an ant's antenna. And he's even developed genuine relationships with some ants, like Ulysses S. Ant here. But he didn't stop there. Hank developed a lot of amazing tech like a stinger pistol that focuses his bioenergy into a stun beam, and image-inducing camouflage to mask himself as an ant. It worked so well it fooled Reed Richards, the smartest guy on the planet. He also built a suit that runs on that nifty serum he made back in his lab. It lets him shrink thanks to the newly discovered Pym particles, named after himself. Classic Hank. And the Pym particle is the key to unlocking the fundamental constants of the quantum mechanics at play here. They enable you to decrease the distance between atoms. However, in order to do that, he'd have to change the Bohr radius, the ratio of electron mass to the distance the electrons orbit an atom's nucleus. Well, of course. Like how when you make a bagel pizza, you can't fit the whole pizza on the bagel. Believe me, I've tried. It's too small. You just gotta put less on. Sure, Boomstick. So the Pym particles are actually displacing mass to an alternate dimension in order to maintain that ratio.
What's up, cat?
It's like having a second bagel to put the rest of your pizza on. I get it. But if that were true, he shouldn't be able to punch with full-size strength if he has less mass. And he's definitely lighter, because otherwise he'd crush the sweet ants he rides, like...
Don't mess up my goddamn setup right here. She in heat too. Been in heat for like past 3 months. On and off. Horrible.
Vincent Van Gogh here. His mass is being replaced with massless neutrinos, but that doesn't adequately explain how he can have less mass and seemingly more mass at the same time. Sure it does, Wiz. Trust Pym and his particles. Look at the guy. He's explaining the whole thing while wearing a lab coat. What's more trustworthy than that? You're the exception. You think you understand this? Oh, of course. He's small but strong. You said something about a boar, so I guess you wanted ham on that pizza, but I already made the pizza.
Will you take that coat off?
No. Ow.
Regardless, there is virtually no limit to Hank's ability to shrink. He can go beyond subatomic down to the underspace, a plane of existence below all realities in the Marvel Universe.
And Hank has literally changed his biology. He's rewritten his own chemical makeup to prevent anyone else from changing his size. And he's used Pym particles so much, he's now got an energy field around him that lets him change the size of people or objects on the fly, or touch her by straight up firing Pym particles in the air.
He's never shy about using them either. He eventually supplied his wife, Janet Van Dyne, with some Pym tech to become the Wasp, his partner in crime fighting.
The two ended up rubbing shoulders with A-listers like Thor, Iron Man, and the Hulk to take down Loki. Ant-Man and the Wasp were actually the ones that captured him and pitched the idea of forming the Avengers.
Unfortunately, Hank's insecurities started to creep back in, and he felt that if he wanted to keep up with the big heroes, he was going to have to think bigger.
Enter a bunch of those Pym-powered alter egos like Yellow Jacket and Giant Man, where he can grow anywhere from 12 feet tall to so big he can enter the overspace, the polar opposite of the underspace.
There he met Eternity, who called him Earth's scientist.
I don't know what's underspace and overspace. Come on. Like, that's like normal information. Like, oh yeah, I understand that. I don't. Making up random shit. Leave it to superhero shit.
Supreme. Something he won't let you forget.
Hank pushed himself to these insane heights even though he knew the strain on his body could be fatal.
But he simply didn't care and kept pushing himself. Thus, his greatest and worst creation was born. Ultron.
Yep, all the Tin Man Tron was created by Hank, not Tony like the movies. But the mass murder butt thing turned out pretty much the same. Big swing and a miss there.
The fallout from Ultron left Hank in a bad place, to say the least. His guilt made him feel like an utter failure, and that his best work was behind him. This led Hank to do unspeakable things.
Girl, stop messing with
A real
the
low-life
microphone.
move. And even though poor mental health doesn't excuse this behavior, it was clear that Hank needed help. He suffered multiple mental breakdowns, endured the physical toll of the Pym particles, and had bipolar disorder that went undiagnosed for years.
So Hank finally did the best thing he could. He acknowledged his problems, got the help he needed, and committed to self-improvement.
And with that help, Hank slowly started making things right. He rebuilt the West Coast Avengers, gave Scott Lang his blessing to become the second Ant-Man, and finally defeated Ultron.
He created a backdoor Trojan infiltration code to defeat Ultron that was so advanced, it went on to replicate and evolve all on its own to create a new species made up of artificial intelligence.
They don't call him the god of modern AI for nothing. Hank has showed over and over again that he's an integral part of the Marvel Universe.
Not just by ways of his scientific contributions or victories in battle, but by proving that heroes come in all shapes and sizes. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp.
It can be easy to spend all your time on your work, your friends, and Papa Palmer told him to do. Probably.
Everything was pretty typical for Ray until one fateful night when he took a walk to take his mind off a frustrating experiment and saw a meteor fall from the sky.
He ran off to the crash and found himself a life-changing piece of a white dwarf star, and immediately started messing around with it. Who wouldn't?
He discovered that he could focus ultraviolet rays through it and shrink inanimate objects. There was just one problem. When he shrunk things, they exploded. Every time.
I do not see the problem. Sounds like he found a foolproof way of blowing stuff up.
That sounds fun.
Ray was determined to figure out how to shrink objects without blowing them up. But first, he went on a hike with his nature club. And as a fellow scientist, I have to question his priorities.
But hey, it seems to work for him. I support it. Different hikes for different mics, am I right?
While in a cave, the ceiling suddenly collapsed, trapping everyone inside. After searching high and low for another exit, Ray found a small opening and had an idea. He could try to shrink himself down and get help, even if it meant he might explode before he got the chance.
But he didn't explode. I hope this story has a happy ending at least.
Perplexed, Ray determined there must have been something special about him that made him uniquely immune to the explosive fate. Something super scientifically convenient that we never get any more information on.
So he got to work and created himself a suit to harness the power of the white dwarf star and became the Atom!
Adam uses the white dwarf fragment to decrease his size while having control.
Shrinking, of course, can shrink yourself and others to microscopic levels through touch or via equipment. Mass alteration, controlling his body mass. Rearrange atoms. At a shrunken state, he can manipulate atoms and people and objects. Mind manipulation, at shrunken state, he can make mental suggestions. Nuclear blast, by re-expanding a molecule fraction charge, he can create small nuclear blasts. Phasing? Nah, that's phasing. Okay. Can shrink itself and small enough to pass through objects. Flight, fighting air or light path via mass alteration. Oh no, Adam. I mean,
Over his
man,
density.
I think Adam might have this. Then again, most of the time I'm wrong about these.
Which makes a lot of sense considering that white dwarfs have the mass of a star, like the sun, but their volume is more like the Earth's, making them among the densest objects in space.
Just a teaspoon of the stuff could weigh up to 100 tons. That's one strong spoon.
When Adam shrinks and shifts his weight, he's actually sending his extra mass to a dimension called the mass zone.
Where, Adam could maybe live forever. At one point, Ray's apprentice Ryan Choi was murdered by Deathstroke, but willed some of his mass to the mass zone and was able to survive in that dimension. So these guys can potentially cheat death, but would be stuck there without any outside help.
But from one scientist to another, what's most impressive is Ray's creation of the Bio Belt. That's what allows Adam to use the power of the white dwarf and shrink.
Bio belt suit made of white dwarf star. Sword dipped in Katarian poison. Metal knuckles. Shrinking blanket. Crossbow. Miniature blaster. Holocaust. This destabilizer. Dimension vibrator. Magic satchel. Everything sounds sciencey except that last one. Magic satchel. Satchel.
While maintaining any weight from immaterial to his full 180 pounds. There's even been times where it's stated that he was able to become almost as dense as a white dwarf star itself for a few seconds.
The belt is also how he can travel through phone lines or through the air, on currents or light beams. Over time, Ray has spread out the white dwarf power to other parts of his suit, and now the bio belt acts as a utility belt for his shrunken weapons and tech.
What you mean? You used it somewhere else? I'm saying. Yeah, he enlarged something he shouldn't have.
Also prevents his size or mass from being altered by any outside forces.
And while he can only increase his size back to his natural 6 feet in height, his ability to shrink is near limitless. He can travel between subatomic space to the microverse, the foundation of all reality in the DC universe, where atoms become the size of planets.
Typically, he can increase back to his normal size with such force he can smash through diamonds. So if Adam increases his size too much while still within the microverse, he could blow up the entire fabric of reality from the inside out.
Shrinking down to that size means that he can shrink small enough to rearrange atoms themselves.
Look at him touch them balls.
Ray can take individual molecules and rapidly expand them to cook up a small nuclear blast in the palm of his hand. Oh, Ray Palmer. I just got that.
He also once disarmed a bomb by rearranging its atoms. At that size, he can move at the velocity of light. So fast and so randomly, he basically acted as a barrier between any and all possible atom combinations. But come on, there's no scientific explanation here for him to have superhuman senses or awareness to comprehend being everywhere at the same time.
It makes total sense. If you're small enough, you can fit in almost everything, everywhere, all at once. Like how you can fit an entire pizza into a calzone, and then you have a whole pizza everywhere inside the calzone. Man, I get it. Science is pizza.
No! Science is all I have! Why are you doing this to me?
On top of all of Ray's amazing inventions and abilities, he's also got some more classic weapons like a laser blaster and a frickin' sword he used to fight a giant crocodile. Relative to his size.
That was when Ray was believed to be dead, but was actually just stuck at 6 inches tall and stranded in the Amazon rainforest, where he encountered an alien race known as the Catarthans.
And get this, he ended up leading a rebellion against their tyrant king and became the ruler of all the Kardashians.
And his heroism didn't stop there. The Atom was a very well-respected hero and was even asked to join the Justice League of America shortly after it was formed.
He fought alongside Batman and his best bud, Hawkman. And you don't fight with those guys without picking up a thing or two.
Impressive combat skills aside, Atom's greatest contribution to the legendary team was always his incredible mind.
He once created kryptonite inside of Superman by realizing that if he gathered up enough Kryptonian protons, they would eventually become radioactive.
While stranded in limbo, Atom realized that if the Flash sped up the rate of a nuclear reaction's stellar evolution to exhaust its core, they could turn a fire demon into a black hole and use it as a wormhole to get back to Earth.
He's
What
a
the
brilliant,
hell?
hard-working, and determined scientist that never stops working on a problem until he's found a solution. I mean, if I figured out how to blow stuff up as well as he did, I would have stopped right there. I'm the hero that blows stuff up. Wouldn't even need to change my name.
Ray Palmer lived the dream, going from research scientist to legendary superhero. He picked up the pieces presented to him and built something greater than the sum of its parts.
Who knew this tiny titan with massive brains would have just as much brawn to back it up?
This
Come on, Ant-Man. Let's go, Ant-Man, Ant-Man, Ant-Man.
Battle!
You should pick on someone your own size, relatively speaking.
How did you do this? It's laced with a particle I've never seen before.
They're called Pym particles, and I'm Hank Pym, Scientist Supreme. You should have knocked. You're using pieces of a white dwarf star? That's cute.
Everything we needed already existed. You just needed to be smart enough to put the pieces together. Scientist Supreme?
Oh, balls.
Did you know that at any given moment, there are about 2.5 million ants under your feet?
I mean, that makes sense, but why are you bringing that up right now?
Took you long enough.
That was easy. Stop it, cat.
Okay, let's try this. I'll hack his belt. You lay low and let me know what you find. Huh?
Nice try.
Oh, this nigga brought out the clip.
If I search every electron path in his gun and study their probability wave functions, I just might be able to.
Oh, Lord.
What's happening? He must be reaching his limit. If we don't get out of here quick, he's gonna destroy all of reality. Now, my pets! You have your tricks and your tools, but I created something beyond the limits of human existence. I operate on a scale you
Come on.
can't.
Ant-Man gonna win. Come on, let's say. Yes, yes. Ant-Man wins.
How?
You can't be afraid to think big.
Oh, oh, oh my. We did it. Ant-Man won. He won, cat. He won.
KO!
Ant-Man and Atom both had many answers to each other's abilities and arsenals. Both were able to store various weapons at a shrunken state, both were trained in judo, and they both could obviously keep up with each other's ability to shrink at will.
Though there was one small thing Adam couldn't answer to. The ants! Hank's bond with his pets lent him some small advantages, and Ray just didn't have enough anti-ant tools in his bio belt.
But in Adam's defense, the fact that he could punch with a fist packed with all of his mass meant that a close-up fight, while small, would leave Hank with few options since he can only punch with his normal human strength.
Even still, all Ant-Man would need to do is keep his distance with the
Yes, I was right. Ant-Man got it. Yes, it's a come up, boys and girls. I'm winning. Let's go. But I'll see you guys later and bye now. Deuces.